Whether your team is your family, your business, or your employees, staying connected is crucial. You can depend on the Cross Insurance family
Very good.
to provide the best insurance solutions for you. We've got your team protected. Visit crossagency.com today.
Hello, I'm Janae Osterheld, Boston Globe culture columnist and founder of A Beautiful Resistance. I am so excited to welcome you to join Boston Globe and GlobeDocs in presenting the next era Panthers more than football. And today means a lot to me because I get to introduce Cheney Carlson Bullock, Cheney the director, who I work with often, shooting A Beautiful Resistance. This film is a CTD production. Cheney is more than a director, a filmmaker. He does everything with heart and soul, and it feels like he's been looking at everyone through a unique lens of his own his entire life. He's a natural storyteller and literally a dream to work with. I feel like I got a little brother and collaborator in beautiful things in good trouble. So without further talking for me, I want to introduce Cheney Carlson.
Hello, thank you so much.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Better now that you're here. Tell us a little bit about More Than Football and why this is the story you wanted to tell, because you've been shooting the next era Panthers and football and sports for a couple of years now. So what is it about Mick in this story that called to you?
So I think with this documentary, the unique element, Mick approached us talking about how he wanted to start introducing mental health workshops into his program. And we thought that was an amazing idea. I mention all the time, sports are fun, but I always love the story deeper than sports. And so to have these workshops outside of regular practice or outside of regular games was something that we felt like was really important to highlight. And just mental health in general is very important, but especially, some of the youth that are a part of this program, mental health is even more important. As you've seen in the intro of the documentary, you can see some of the aspects that go down that kids have to deal with on a regular basis. Sometimes it comes with violence or just, regular things that come with living, in a city with a bunch of different people. And being able to kind of like highlight that and continuously like work through the process to kind of check in with the athletes to see how they're feeling, and just kind of a community level approach to kind of bringing some positive mental health tactics and experiences for them to be able to have is just something that we thought was important. It definitely should be on film.
What were some of the challenges in making a film like this? Because, it's you and Michaela. It's not a big team of people. It's not a ton of resources. You don't have five other camera people or an extra editor or a colorist or a lot of the things we see other documentarians have. It's you two doing the work and on the field, literally running up and down the field while the kids are playing the game. So can you talk a little bit about that process and some of the challenges and rewards in it?
Yeah. Definitely the challenges is that, our goal is always to make the highest level production that we could possibly make. I don't want to walk away from my content feeling that, this could be better. This could be, obviously I'll feel that anyways, but like knowing that I put 110% to make this look like a serious piece that should be taken seriously. But with that, obviously a team of two, it's really difficult to be able to do that. And being able to be in a bunch of different places at one point is definitely very hard to be able to capture the content, as well as sticking with a storyline. You kind of have to be very flexible, and you kind of have to have your ear to the ground to be able to kind of follow not just the game and who's winning, but some of the backstories in the game. If you notice one of the athletes is like struggling, and you can kind of see that there's like a mental health sort of theme going on that is important. Being flexible in the moment to kind of find those themes while you're filming, because obviously it's a game too, so there's not really a lot of storyboarding that you can do prior because you don't know a lot of this stuff's going to happen. So just working really closely with Michaela to kind of like cover different sides of the field, making sure I'm connecting with Mick prior to the game to see if there's any updates on not just the team, but any like personal things that are going on within the program. Or for example, one of the things one of the students, Isaiah, his father passed away, and so they had a whole ceremony for that. And to be able to kind of capture that while listening at the same time, when Mick was like doing his speech, like I honestly was crying as well. So like being involved, but like kind of being able to like stay focused and not get too into like the emotional part of it and be able to stay as a storyteller as well. I think balancing that is very difficult. And in addition to the team size, I think just like the gravity that some of this content is very hard. And that would be one of the biggest difficult parts. Like Mikhail and I are always, going through the content after, be like, is it okay to put this? And am I giving enough respect to this situation, and am I giving enough space for the audience to be able to like understand what's going on and to feel it? And will the parents or will the student or the athlete feel respected after? So like having that kind of responsibility and almost kind of not guessing, but just like using my intuition and Michaela's intuition to like feel as comfortable enough where this is okay to share, this is important to share, and I feel like they're looking in a good lens. Definitely is, I guess, the struggles of it. And I think the positive parts of it is just like developing these relationships with these athletes. That's like, you get really close to them, you get comfortable with them, you know them by name, and it's like you get to like, you were saying we do it for years, so you get to like follow up with like, oh, how's school going now? I heard you were going to do this, or kids going from one school to another, and it's like, how's that doing? Like, and just like the as you're interviewing them, obviously you don't know what they're going to say, so that part of it is just like an exciting aspect. Like, I wonder what he's feeling right now, I wonder what they're going to say, and just kind of being a part of it, I guess, is the best part.
You did such a beautiful job at telling especially when the young athlete's father passed away, and kind of capturing that grief with dignity, and also giving him space to talk about how he feels and the role that football was playing in him processing, was one of the most poignant parts of the film to me. And I definitely cried. So I was thinking about you guys and filming that. What has been how have the kids and the families responded since the film came out?
I honestly think like it's been amazing, because I think from the kids' point of view, obviously I'm not with them all the time, so I get to see them in their game day moments, but I think I see a level of confidence increase with them. Some of the athletes that we worked with before that might have been a little skeptical, or when I pull them aside, you could tell they're hesitant. Now they're coming right up to me and they're like, hey, I want to talk about this, or I want to do this, or can you mic me up this time and this time? And I think that level of confidence kind of also plays into the mental health, where it's like, we're another element of mental health that, that I at least try to bring in the interview part of it, like checking in with them before we start filming, like asking them how they're doing, like on and off the field, or whether I'm shooting or not. And so, CTD Productions and stuff, we love to bring a positive aspect to that as well. But definitely just a growth in confidence, which is awesome. And the parents, I mean, I just get a lot of positive feedback, like especially online or when we're there, like we're also developing relationships with them as well. This episode, or this documentary, we didn't necessarily go into anybody's family's homes, but prior documentaries we have. And so, there's some families that we have like a really close relationship now. And every time we see them, on this game or this game, it's checking in with the athlete, checking in with mom, see how she's doing, seeing what the updates are. And and just, positive messaging and visuals for everybody. So I think it's just overall a good thing.
Well, I want to definitely dive a little deeper into the positive representation and the way that you use visuals to affirm the students. There's a few parts in this film where they look like legitimate stars, like larger than life, like Super Bowl champs at some points, like the way that you kind of used your unique gifts in editing and sort of like slowed things down, or let them get real close and the colors are rich when they're dancing and celebrating. And I mean, it feels big. They feel big in the ways that they deserve to feel. I want to definitely hear your thinking behind making sure to have those big moments, not just like big sports moments, but those big moments of like, I'm here, I shine big, I matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one aspect that, both Mikhail and I do is the kids, they're out there working really hard, right? And you could see physically how they're running around. So like on our aspect, we work just as hard as they do, right? Like you mentioned before, Mikhail and I running up in the outfield, we actually did a football event this like last weekend, and we literally ran from the first game all the way with, there's like 4 or 5 games that we just keep going. And I guess, a lot of the visuals it's the angles, it's the exposure, getting it correctly, it's the color getting it correctly. And, that can only happen is if you're really like intentional and making sure you're focusing on all that stuff continuously. And so each play, how I look at it, is going to be a big play. So I'm going to have to be in position to make sure that when this kid comes running down the field, that I have a good angle to like, not enhance, but to give like the respectable amount of effort that they're putting into the play. So I think that going together, us being in the right angle, us working hard, us listening to what's going on, almost kind of like reading plays and just like knowing the personalities and how they are. And like, some kids I know, like if he scores his touchdown, he's going to go off, he's going to start dancing. And so just like having Michaela like run in and make sure she gets that and stuff like that. And, just putting respect on the shot and the scene. And, every game that we're filming is like a Super Bowl for us. Just that's how they come into it. And so we try to do it in our own way as well, I guess.
And before this film, there was a docuseries. Can you, for those people who don't know, can you describe the docuseries and where people can watch it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the docuseries we did before with the Next Era Panthers and the Mattapan Patriots, we did last year, and that was a 5-part documentary. You can find it on YouTube under CTD Productions. And that one, we kind of broke it up a little bit more into, we dove deeper into some of the specifics, athlete stories and their family and their back history. And we kind of just like drew it out a little bit longer, so you can get a little bit more content in, like there's just more going on. And so you can definitely find that on YouTube. And if, some of the same, athletes are featured in the old one. So if there's some of them that you wanted to learn more about, they might be in the other one as well. And it was a more overall of like the program and not necessarily focused on a specific like topic. And so I think it's a nice contrast between, a bunch of content, 5 episodes to get through and with a lot more going on versus something that's a little bit more like jam-packed and succinct. That was definitely something that we wanted to play with, to be able to like fit it into something that's a little bit easier to share for people to be able to actually, consume in a shorter time. And so we got both now to work with. So definitely check it out.
Well, with More Than Football, this is your first time breaking into the film festival circuit as CTD Productions. What was your experience like as a first timer to the Roxbury International Film Festival, especially in its 25th anniversary, and just really, experiencing that as a filmmaker?
I mean, that I'm not the best with words, but that was just, I can't even put into words how great of an experience that was, how validating it was for us, and how like cool it was to be in a room of like-minded people as well, who like are thinking similar on that creative side, visual side, and to just meet other people who are in the industry, maybe at a different level or maybe doing something different. But we were blessed enough to have the Next Era, More Than Football, as well as the A Beautiful Resistance with the Rocks Film Sisters. And shout out to them as well. Just what they're doing there at the Roxbury Film Festival is just, it's so amazing. And like, as a filmmaker who is in it, every filmmaker should try to get in that film festival, because it's just having your film up on the screen and listening to people laugh at things that you thought, you hope they laughed at when you're here by yourself editing, and to actually hear them laugh at it, or to like when the room gets quiet, when something like those feelings that you're usually trying to get out of people and you're just hoping that you're getting it, to be able to see it and experience it, and then have people actually like validate you for your work and the effort is just, there's nothing that beats it. So definitely an amazing experience.
What's your earliest memory of film?
It's funny because I think I might have said in the past that like I used to, snowboard with my friend, and we really got into like snowboarding film edits and stuff like that, which is it's funny how similar it is to like the football style edits that we do. But honestly, as a child, I'm looking back, like my mom and my sister and myself, we used to make home videos all the time on like an old Sony camera. Well, at that time it wasn't old, but we used to just make home videos of us just like playing around the house. And I even saw, there was one shot that I saw that it's like I tilt the camera upside down and I kind of like crawled on the ground as if I was like climbing up a mountain. And I was just like, oh, that's a pretty creative shot. Like I must have been doing this for some time. So I would say like those home videos back in the day really kind of probably was the fuel to kind of what I'm doing today.
So when I first met you, you were just right you were walking up to the line of, I'm going to quit my day job and be a full-time filmmaker. What was it about making film that made you say, this is what I want to actually do, and I'm willing to bet on myself, and I'm going to quit my day job? And tell people where you were working and what you were doing.
So I was actually, I come from fundraising and a development background. Well, I went to school for communications with video and production, but I ended up getting into fundraising because at the end of the day, I just want to make this world a better place. And wherever I can find that home, I'm cool with. But luckily, I found something that actually matches, my dream as well. But I was working at City Year, and I was a national corporate partnership manager. And I think, and I was working with, big companies and kind of developing like partnerships and different events and stuff like that. But I think what kind of revealed it to me was the fact that I would work from, 9 to 5, and then I would slide over my company laptop, pull up my regular laptop, and then work until 1 a.m. And I did that for, I would say like almost a year, maybe. Like it was some time that I was doing that. And so it just was like a buzz in my ear where, cause I'm not usually like, I have to care about something to be that, driven to do that. And the fact that I was doing that consistently, I didn't care about anything else. And I was actually looking forward to kind of like finalizing this so I can go like work more, I think just showed me that there's something more to this, and there's something that that works there. And I think additionally, the videos that I was putting out, the feedback that I was getting from people, like I felt like that was the most recognition that I got, like kind of in life, really, like the most positive, like, oh, you're killing this. This is you. Like, this is good. Like, I feel like that affirmation from like friends, family, Janae, you played a huge part in that. And just like that affirmation, as well as just like seeing my own personal work. I think that's where I got it from.
How do you feel when you're behind the camera? I've seen you work. I've literally like been able to be next to you and witnessed you behind the camera. What is it you're feeling in your spirit? Like when you're, both looking at the lens, looking out of the lens that is your actual eyes, but also through the lens of the camera.
Yeah. It's funny, I think, because and you probably know this as well, but my normal persona, I'm very shy. I don't like to intrude. I try to just like stay to myself and like, like I'm very, very shy. With the camera in my hand, I turn into this like investigative reporter. I'll talk to anybody at any point in time. I'll film anything. I'll be in the way of a football. I'll talk to random people I don't know. Like, and it just creates this like inner joy within myself that like when I'm like out there shooting and getting shots, like there's nothing more fun than that, like at least for me. And it allows me to like learn stuff. Like it's like all the positive things that you get, I'm using it through the camera. And yeah, just like I'm just like just like it just, I don't know, turn something on for me. Yeah.
So sports videography and sports film really was your wheelhouse when I met you a couple of years ago. But you've expanded so much, not only just as, my creative comrade at A Beautiful Resistance, but just in the work you've done with the Boston Globe and Juneteenth festivals, and just constantly working in the community. I've taken to calling you the community's director. You're always at the festivals and the nonprofit events, and wherever community is being empowered and lifted is where you and Keeks often are. How do you feel you've grown as a filmmaker, and what's next? Like, what's next for you?
Yeah. I think how I've grown as a filmmaker, I think is just like, outside of like the technical things, like being able to just do a lot more now with my skill set and being able to like kind of get full coverage of events and just knowing the technical aspect. It's definitely the confidence. I think confidence plays a huge part in success in general, no matter what industry you're in. And if you're confident, you can do anything. Like you can be the best person in the world, but if you're not confident in yourself, like you're going to miss opportunities. And, being able to be in community and like feeling that like that acceptance from the community as well, just gives me that confidence to be like, I belong here. And not only do I belong here, but I enjoy being here. I want to stay here. So I think that's just been the growth for Michaela and I, is just like really finding our home and finding the joy in that. And what's next is definitely just, expanding the brand. We love like working with companies, especially if they're working on any social impact type of work, any community type of work. And, as you can see in the documentary, like Concepts, like got involved and, helped support the kids. So any type of that type of work, we want to just continue getting our name out there, working with these, larger brands, helping them get their social impact and that community level, like not only just the content, but the like authentic content as well. Because, a lot of these programs, like you said, we're out and about. So we actually know some of these people or connected with some of these people. So it's like, we're a good place to be able to come to us and to get that authentic look and at least be able to ask the right people to get where we need to get. And so for us, it's just, continuing growing where we're going and working with larger brands and just making sure that the quality continues to get better as well. Always making sure the quality is better.
And why is it important that we have people of color behind the camera? The whole reason I met you is because I was very intentionally looking for partners behind the camera who shared my lived experience and identity, because we're fighting against certain gazes and restrictions and unconscious biases that come out when people are filming and writing and telling stories of us. So can you speak to why it's important that we have people of color and Black filmmakers and editors in the room?
Yeah. I mean, I think even outside of why I think it's important, I've been in so many scenarios where the person that we're interviewing, especially interviews, because those are very intimate, where the person is, they're either like, I don't know, like this just felt so right, or I'm so glad you're here, or I'm glad you asked that question, or I'm glad you did this. Like the amount of like positive reinforcement that we get from people that we interview just about the feeling comfortable part, especially a camera in itself is like creates nerve. Obviously, even just this camera is making me nervous, but just like being in front of the camera is like, there's a lot to it. So having somebody on the other side that you can relate to, or at least feel comfortable enough to like be vulnerable in front of for a second, if that is, because then that could allow you to like feel comfortable, whether it's like, oh, I don't like that angle, or, you know, us catching something of, hey, get, you know, move your shirt like this or that, just like somebody who cares. It's really important because the camera is very, it's forever. And it's a very like important tool. And so if it's not used correctly, or if it's not treated with care, then you could put people in positions where like they just are not, like, you're gonna, you know, make them not feel good about themselves. So it's like knowing that and being a part of the community so that I at least could guess some of the things, or at least know to ask the right questions, I think is just an invaluable experience. And also I think it's just important to be able to look for some of those things as well, like just having my own experiences growing up as a Black man in this country. Like with this doc, I was able to kind of like look for things and themes that I know as a kid I would want to have seen, or maybe it's me projecting and it's like, this young kid, I need to make him look like this because I know I would have wanted to look like that. So I think it's just important to have somebody out there just kind of like basically just looking out for you, really.
Well, and historically, imaging has been used by the mainstream media and arts world in ways that have been harmful to Black people and other marginalized folks. It's really why Frederick Douglass, you know, it's not by accident he's the most photographed man. He understood the power of imaging and what typing meant and how Black folks had been degraded and dehumanized. So he was very intentional about how he was perceived in front of the camera to help open up a pathway. Same thing with like how Gordon Parks used his camera. It's imperative that we have people behind cameras who are doing it, as you just said, with care. And you offered, in more than football, there's such a softness and tenderness that is given to these, and joy that's given to these kids. And Mick, like, you know, Mick might be yelling, but he's also crying. He's also so passionate. You can tell he loves these kids and he's going to fight for them to win, and not necessarily at football. He's teaching them how to win in life, and how to keep going and persevere. And we have to be able to be the authors of our stories, whether it's written or on camera, on screen, painting. It's just like it is one of those change makers that we kind of forget that how important it is. What is something you want people to walk away with when they finish watching the film?
I mean, what I would want people to walk away when they're watching film, I want like what the words that come out of their mouth is like, wow, those kids are amazing. I want that to be like just blown away by the performance. I mean, it's not really performance, they're actually living their life, but by the kids, by the students, and how strong they are, like how they're able to like deal with situations that an adult wouldn't be able to deal with, and they're just handling it with grace and scoring touchdowns and being positive with each other and uplifting each other. So I just want people to just see that, you know, we can actually learn a lot from the youth, I think. And I think that, you know, like just, you know, putting some respect on their names and allowing them to, maybe we should listen to them a little bit more.
And you're also allowing them to be kids. Like, yes, a lot of kids in our communities do have to deal with things that other children don't. But I don't feel like this film adultifies them or strips them of their childhood. In a lot of ways, it still reinforces their tenderness and, you know, the celebration, the watching them scramble for the money and just, you know, dancing, the special handshakes. It's just, I think it's important to remember, you know, that they are children and they're allowed to have a childhood.
Yeah, no, I love that. Emphasize that for sure.
I'm going to ask you something that you're not going to expect, but
Uh-oh.
you're going to, I'm just warning you because I know how you get all nervous. So your partner, Michaela, is not just your, production partner. You guys are like teenage sweethearts. You've been together, since you were teenagers for over a decade now. What is it like to kind of work and live with your partner? How do you guys make that work? How do you make time for, space?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's the best decision I've ever made in my life. Well, we made it together. She's the best coworker I've ever had. I think that, I've heard this a couple of times where people are like, it seems like she's talking to you, but you're not like saying anything, but you guys can communicate. So imagine having a partner that you could just look at and they know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So like on the work side of it, like we're just so in tune already as people that, it works so well on the camera. I'm so proud and appreciative of Michaela because Michaela comes from an event background and she really handles all the business technical side of everything, but she's also out there with the camera. And over those last couple of years, she's a real DP as well. And she's earned her space as as a videographer, especially in a space where there's not a lot of female videographers. And I'm definitely glad that she's able to kind of enter into that space as well. How do we make space? I mean, it's like this business is like with the way that we've it's our life. Like the work that we're doing is not just like a job. It's kind of like we feel like we're, helping with the social justice of this world and uplifting it. So it's like it's not we don't necessarily need that much like space because we're just kind of like living it and we're finding the joy in it, being able to like go shopping together for some new cool clothes, like or being able to like watch movies together on a different level than you would have technically or that you would have watched with a partner in the past. So we just made it like a lifestyle and we're just enjoying every moment, the ups and downs, and to be able to have somebody that you could confide in during a difficult situation at work that you can fully trust is just like so invaluable that we're almost looking out for each other even when we're working. You know what I mean? And those little like 5-minute pullaways like, hey, I'm stressing out. Like, I need you for a second. And to have your partner there on the field or wherever we're doing it is just invaluable. So I don't know if that's necessary to answer the question, but
Oh no, I had to ask it because one of the questions I get asked the most outside of when you and I are working together about the work we're doing is, oh, wait, they're together? And I'm like, yes, those are my babies. Yes, they're together. So I wanted to get that out there and talk about just how great you are at being a team. And Michaela also is just like the ultimate fixer. She will catch, the lint in your hair and the random thing on your face, or if your makeup's just a little off, to make sure that she catches it so the camera doesn't. And so I love her for that and so many other things. I just wanted to take a little space and celebrate her. How has it been for you sort of entering the journalism space? Because that wasn't your background, and you've become quite a force in Boston journalism, filmmaking, and it's been beautiful to watch you. We recently were in Vermont during the storm, unplanned, but we were there, and I was on the phone with you, and I was like, "Let's just shoot some video. We'll use it." And you shot video during the flood after extreme circumstances where you literally had to sleep in a car because you couldn't make it to where we were going, and you made breaking news journalism in your car using a hotspot, which is not something you would have done 3 years ago. So what has that been like for you, really pivoting and learning to move a lot like a journalist?
Yeah, I was actually telling Mikhail this, the other day, and maybe you as well, actually. But we love it. Like the journalism aspect ties so perfectly with like documentary as well. It's like pretty much documentary, but just like a little faster, I guess, with a little faster turnaround. But like I said, when I'm with the camera, like I have no fear. And then it allows me to kind of like learn about all this stuff that I would have never had the opportunity to. And like the pressure of the fast turnaround and like being able to kind of like hear people's stories. Like, you know, the documentary took 8 months to do, but then the little piece we did for Montpelier, we did that in like an hour or two. But just like going up to people and like, how are you feeling about this moment? It's almost like a way to like connect with people, and it gives you an excuse to, in a way. And so, you know, Michaela like kind of directing and me kind of getting the film and us going back and forth to make sure the person's comfortable really quickly, but then also getting the story. It was an amazing experience, like especially to be able to turn that around from like having to be stuck out there to then like using that opportunity to like tell a real story that like matters to people, and like allowing those few people that we interviewed to have their voice heard during this really tough time. It just felt like, it felt right, it felt like being at home, and it felt like something that I could definitely do for the rest of my life. So
I definitely see you doing it for the rest of your life. Who are filmmakers that inspire you?
wow. I mean, I think like classically Spike Lee, I think just like as a young Black filmmaker, like that's just kind of the biggest epitome of everybody you look to. I think right now I'm starting to do a little bit more research on directors and getting to really know like who the directors are, and really putting more respect on their art and stuff like that. I mean, Wes Anderson just recently, because that became really popular, just kind of actually sitting down and watching a movie and studying it and doing the art, because my background was in communications, like, so it was more of like a video production. It wasn't necessarily like the art side of it. So us kind of like entering into this space is kind of like, it's new for me. It's like I'm still trying to figure out styles and who I look up to. But I think just generally like just Spike Lee in those movies.
What is it about Spike Lee's style that inspires you?
I just think at the time that he came out, that he was able to like put culture into it so heavily. I think I just enjoy the fact that he's able to kind of do what he wants to do and put his lens onto it. And I feel like being able to do, especially back then, he's like paving the way for people to be able to do that. So I think just the fact that he was able to almost like put himself into it and have a lot of creative control over it. It's not kind of like a tight buttoned up like production. It's like it's super creative, and it seemed like he was able to just come on set and kind of like, I'm sure there was a lot of pushback, and I'm sure he had to really fight for what he needed, but the way that it came out, it looked like he was able to just do what he wants to do. So that's kind of what I respect about him.
And he has a very certain aesthetic. I feel like when you watch a Spike Lee film, it's a Spike Lee film. It's a Spike joint. You know it. What would the CTD signature be? Like, what is something that when you're looking at what you make, you're like, oh yeah, this is a CTD production?
I would say what I tend to lean towards is definitely a slower emotional type of content. I can definitely do the hype videos, but like when I'm left to my own, definitely like a slower, like softer, emotional type of video with a lot of like audio sound bites in there, and kind of just like telling a story, even if it's like a 1-minute video or a 30-minute video. I like to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, with some like sort of drama in between. Like I like to make everything a story, whether it's like, so I think just kind of like the emotional storyteller type of vibe. You should be able to tell it's a CTD production.
There's definitely a softness to me that is signature to you and what you do. One thing I'd like to talk about, because before we come to a close, is, you're from Connecticut, and yes, that's New England, but it's Connecticut, and you've come to Boston and really planted a flag. Like you, much like me, have made this home, and not just made it home, but made it so that you are advocating for the Bostonians and the Black and Brown folks here. And how you have sought to tell their stories and lift them and affirm them using the camera. Why is that so important to you, to have that sense of local pride? Because I've seen it in how you shop. in how you film and where you show up. You have a deeply local pride.
Yeah. Damn. Well, I would say, I come from a small town in Connecticut where I didn't feel welcomed from the second I was born until the day I left at 18. And even when I came back in the summers, like it was kind of like your stereotypical, like, you don't belong here. Even though I was born here and grew up here, I played baseball with your son. I know who you are, but they didn't want me there. And kind of growing up in that kind of way, it creates a kind of like, first you go with, I don't care about anything. I don't want to be a part of it. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. But Boston has been so like welcoming, and it's really been the community that I've been looking for forever. And like the friends I've made, the family I made, just like even the jobs I've had, everybody has just been above and beyond, like, you belong here and we want you to stay. At least that's how I felt like they treated me. And so with that level of like acceptance, I feel like I gotta reciprocate that. Like y'all went hard for me, so I'm gonna go hard for you. So if you have a local brand, if you are doing this or that, even before we were doing the camera, we tried to, go to friend shows, we try to buy local merch. Like, I just want to represent who represents me, and Boston is an amazing place to be at. And there's so much like art and culture, and not that it's not happening in Connecticut, I just didn't find it there, and I just found it here. And when you find it here, like, it's just like your eyes just open, and it's endless at that point. Once you kind of get in the door, there's just endless opportunity. So it's just a respect and a love for how I was treated here. I want to give that back to everybody else, and support and put on for Boston. I got my Boston hat on, like, I'm Boston for sure, through and through, even though I'm a transplant. I've been here for some time, and I'm not leaving. So I really appreciate Boston for doing that for me.
I'm out here about to cry. So I have to ask a question that's personal, and that's like, what made you want to work with A Beautiful Resistance? Like, why?
I mean, the way that you're uplifting the community, and the way that you're like everything you're saying that I'm doing, you're doing that even tenfold. Like all this, even this new merch and all these new people that I've met, it's like a lot of that's through you. And the messaging of Beautiful Resistance is uplifting voices. And that's what I want. Before we were doing that, that's what we wanted to do. So when we're looking around for people in Boston who have like-minded things, it almost seemed like I'm like, this is it right here. Like, we don't even have to look anymore. Like, let's hopefully try to connect with this woman, because she's making it happen in Boston. And like literally word for word, if I were to, like, the way that we were developing our business in the beginning, it would, like, word for word is exactly what ABR is doing. So that's why I wanted to be a part of it. And in the point is the positivity of it. Like, you're making everybody look so cool. You're highlighting the coolest things in Boston, like positive, uplifting, amazing, like, type of work. And so that's what I want to do. And that's definitely what I want to do for the rest of my life, is just kind of like highlighting the positive aspects of it. So I guess that's why we chose each other.
And what makes your life a beautiful resistance?
My life is a beautiful resistance because I feel growth. And I think as a small business, as an independent business, growth is kind of the biggest metric that you look at to make sure you're doing the right thing or you're in the right place. And, whether it's being in the Rocks Film Festival, this film festival, just the work that we've been doing lately, like, or even just the amount of like outside jobs and things that we've been getting, I've been feeling a lot of growth, and I feel blessed to have that growth. And it's like the sign that I'm doing something right. And so to be able to have that feeling and to have that experience, for me, is a beautiful resistance.
Tell the good people one more time where they can find your work.
So you can check me out. You can check my website out, ctdproductionsllc.com. From there, you can find everything. But on YouTube, CTD Productions. My Instagram is Cheney the Director with the THA. And if you follow Janae or Beautiful Resistance, you'll easily be able to find me there too. So
Beautiful Resistance season 3 is working slowly to roll out this summer, and we are very excited to have everyone join us as we celebrate Black love. And you can find us at bostonglobe.com/A Beautiful Resistance and on Instagram at A Beautiful Resistance. And I want to affirm to you and to everyone who's tuning in and everyone who will watch later that, we did choose each other because we are in alignment. And Cheney is literally one of the best filmmakers that I have met. And I think that he is making space, not just in Boston, but in Black storytelling that is going to be remembered for a really long time. The Boston Globe, GlobeDocs, and A Beautiful Resistance are so happy to call you one of our Globies. Thank you, everybody. Please join in to our future documentary screenings, and we look forward to being in community with all of you. Be in your joy.
thank you. Peace, everybody.